Hi there, I'm Aurélie, Global Creative Excellence at Ipsos.
And I'm Laurent from Global Brand Health Tracking at Ipsos.
Welcome to our Ipsos web series, Inside Inflation, What Comes Next? Inflation is everywhere today, adding an extra layer of the dark outlook of the world. According to economy experts, it's gonna stay around for a couple of years. In other words, this is just the beginning.
So today, we are going to discover how brands are addressing inflation in their communication. Who are they? What kind of strategies they are using? What are the do's and don'ts?
This is our first episode, and we are going to update this series about brand and communication strategies in response to inflation along the way. So stay tuned. Episode 2 will be soon released. Let's start with the big picture. If COVID crisis was a difficult period for everybody on the globe, now we must deal with geopolitical tensions, political instability, and environmental challenges. On top of it, the global economic outlook is not darkening. People have a lot of good reasons to worry. It's time to look back and focus on what brands have learned from this COVID when people were under a lot of pressure. What made sense for them? What did they expect from brands and what was successful?
One of the key lessons learned from brands was to stay close to people. Dove, for example, has demonstrated that empathy is a strong driver of brand growth. The brand has used social media to support hospital staff wearing masks in the midst of the pandemic.
A very powerful campaign, super moving and relevant.
But Dove hasn't been the only one. Guinness broke a leg with the campaign #LooksLikeGuinness. After a long-awaited reopening of pubs in the UK during lockdowns, Guinness struck the chord of nostalgia.
But there were so many similar COVID ads. What was different here?
Well, a key driver of success of Dove and Guinness was to develop campaign in an extreme coherence with their existing brand memories. So what happened now with inflation? We've been searching for the first brand initiative to respond to the inflation crunch. And what did we find out already?
Well, marketers seems to play defense.
Indeed, some brands are planning to reduce their ad spends, and the other ones are reducing their margins by using promotions. Few brands have tried to sell the same product, but with smaller quantities. We call that shrinkflation. Finally, some brands are reacting by communicating around affordability. Something like, we've always been affordable, and we will continue to be. We can debate about how effective those strategies are, but they have always something in common. They focus on the less. So far, few brands are playing the card of authenticity to be transparent and clear about why they should increase their price.
Is it the same story for all brands?
Well, at Ipsos, we've been asking people how inflation is affecting them and their spending. And the response, in short, is when buying food, groceries, and utilities. While the first ones are frequent buys, they have a big psychological impact on people's perceptions. Utilities relate to the basic needs of modern life we normally don't care about. But this time, once again, after COVID, some futile but important parts of our life become suddenly challenging and important. Can I take a warm shower? Should I turn off the light?
So, what are the tactics for these brands?
It was not a surprise for us to see grocery retailers being the first to ride the inflation wave earlier this year. One of them is Tesco in the UK. The brand is trying to leverage its brand memories about everyday low price to acquire customers for its mobile operations. When money is scarce, people are forced to make trade-offs between categories.
And Burger King was reducing its Whopper to a symbolic price of €1.99 to contrast with the rise of fuel.
That's clever. But what about the pizza? This one is different, no?
Indeed, Laura. This is a great illustration of a campaign communicating affordability with a subscription offer. It proposes to keep its pizza price to $13 during a year if people register to the service. By doing this, the brand is attempting to switch from infrequent and impulsive pizza buys into more habitual rituals. We have seen similar offers blooming here and there, and it will be interesting to see how this plays out in the coming weeks. Is it a new tool to build saliency or a real category game changer?
Well, it may depend on the type of brands. We have explored our database to find out how inflation can impact brand perceptions. And we've started with food and drinks, as we believed they would be first impacted by higher prices. And we looked at different typologies of brands. Premium or value brands could indeed behave quite differently in a context of inflation.
And what did we find out?
Premium brands always suffer from negative perceptions of price promotions on their equity and their sales. Not really a surprise, but this remained quite steady in 2022. Overall, inflation is not yet weakening their appeal. But value brands seem to be reacting much more to the new context. In Q1, price and promotions have contributed more to their success. Let's see how it plays out in the future, because this strategy is quite difficult to maintain in the long run. Some cost increase will be passed to consumer one day.
So value brands are acting on prices. But what about advertising? We're already seeing some interesting changes in our creative database. What did we find out? Empathy is really gaining traction, a sign that advertising needs to focus even more on people and make sure that brands understand them.
Well, okay. Empathy seems to be really important for ad effectiveness. But what does it mean already? Can we still use empathy and talk about price?
Fair question, Laurent. Let's have a look at the latest Mint Mobile campaign, which is addressing the inflation topic in a quite direct way.
At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. They put their names on arenas, we put ours on my lower back. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. And if this were one of their ads, they'd end it here with a happy customer. So we'll end ours with an angry goat. Look at the angry goat.
So, Mint Mobile is not doing a good job. They are killing it, reaching a great score of 211 of creative effectiveness.
Wow, it sounds great. Could you explain us why?
This score indicates the ad has a fantastic power to stand out from the crowd and to impact sales on short term.
And they just do it by talking about their great price?
Not exactly. We've been able to surface the reasons of this effectiveness. Here is a snapshot of why this ad is working so well. Number one, empathy is real. The setting and Ryan Reynolds are credible. You see, a simple production for a low-cost provider, which makes total sense for the audience. If the speech is done by a celebrity, which of course helps to get people's attention, it also helps the brand credibility as Ryan Reynolds is the company owner. His company, his decision, his speech. Second, Mint Mobile acts as a challenger. It remains true to what it is known for. The message is directly addressed to people. It explains their decision to divide by 2 the price because of inflation. It's a direct answer to the mobile leader. As a challenger, they claim, we do the reverse, not to hit you. Third, Mint Mobile also proves that the company breaks conventions and it pays off, while remaining true to the brand and talking about price in a funny way. They don't forget to bring back humor during a tough time for people.
So, we are arriving at the end of our first episode.
Oh no, already? Let's recap then.
Fact number 1, value brands have been the first to communicate around inflation. So what? Monitor your desirability and possible gaps of price perceptions with competition. You need to make sure what your brand signals with its price remain relevant to people. At some point, you may want to stop to play defense and reframe your price-value perceptions, a bit like pizza.
Fact 2. Empathy is more than ever gaining traction for making great ads. So what? knowing your audience and making sure they understand you feel for them in a creative way. If you have to reduce your comm spends, make sure that what you're putting on here is of a high quality for your audience.
Brands are increasing their chances of making good advertising if they stay true to their existing brand positioning. So what? Don't try to reinvent yourself now. Build on existing brand memories to communicate around affordability and about the unique value you bring to people.
It's now time to close our first episode of Inside Inflation, What Comes Next?
Yes, it is. We hope you find those first highlights insightful. It has been a real pleasure.
We will continue to dig and keep you updated about how brands react in times of inflation along the way. So, stay tuned.